Welcome back, everyone. So, in this video, we will touch on the first concepts that stem the prior videos. So, this is more simple than those concepts. It is another terms for us to describe how we in, interact with computer. So let's begin. Introduction. When coming up with new ideas as a part of design project, it's important to conceptualize them in terms of what the proposed product will do. Sometimes this is referred to as creating a proof of concept. So basically, whenever you're creating a product, technology or anything or any interface, you start with a proof of concept or a concept that will decide your decision when it comes to creating the product. One reason for needing to do this is a reality check where fuzzy ideas and assumptions about the benefits of the product and user experience are scrutinized in terms of their feasibility. How realistic is it to develop what has been suggested, and how desirable and useful will it actually be? Another reason is to enable designers to begin articulating what the basic building blocks will be, like software components, user model, when developing the product. From a user experience perspective, it can lead to better clarity, forcing designers to explain how users will understand, learn about, and interact with the product. For example, consider the idea that a designer has of creating a voice assisted mobile robot that can help waiters in a restaurant take orders and deliver meals to customers. Why? What problem would this address? The designer might say that the robot could help take orders and entertain customers by having conversation with them at the table. They could also make recommendations that can be customized to different customers such as restless children or fuzzy eaters. So here is an example for that. Basically, here is a classic or a good example of designing, conceptualizing scene first to get a reality check if that design is actually needed. Because here, in contrast, an actual problem identified might be the following. It's difficult to recruit good waiters who provide the level of customer service to which we have become accustomed. This might include the following: how intelligent does it have to be? How would it need to move to appear to be talking? What would the customer think of it? Would they think it is too gimmicky and get easily tired of it? Or would it always be a pleasure for them to try to have a conversation with robot, not knowing what it would say on each new visit to the restaurant? Could it be designed to be a grumpy extrovert or a funny waiter? What if it is here? So basically, you're trying to ask questions if that design will actually work in the real world. Unfortunately, this um, instead of trying to be human-like, it appears more machine-like, looking a bit like a bookshelf with four trays. At the top is a touchscreen. Um, I forgot to like screenshot this, but there is a better design for that. Instead of like completely replacing the human, we have a bookshelves that allows the waiter to amplify its cognitive abilities here. Here is an example for that. So basically, if the designer of this have this the conceptual model or proof of concept, it will be able to decide this better that allows the waiter to serve food of the customer without having them to go there physically. Conceptualizing interaction. When beginning a design project, it is important to be clear about the underlying assumptions and claims. By an assumption, we mean taking something for granted that requires further investigation. For example, people want fully automated cars that drive themselves. By a claim, we mean stating something to be true when it's still open to question. So a claim is basically you're stating or assuming something to be true when it's still open to question. It's not proven yet. So in many projects, process involves identifying human activities that are problematic and working out how they might be improved through being supported with a different set of functions. In others, it can be more speculative, requiring thinking through how to design for an engaging user experience that does not exist. So basically, you're trying to create functions, different set of functions in a project. So this requires, it can be more speculative if you're thinking in the thinking part. So this is a series of real world examples. A large software company has decided that it needs to develop an upgrade of its web browser for smartphones because its marketing team has discovered that many of the company's customers have switched over to using another mobile browser. The marketing people assume that something is wrong with their browser and that their rivals have a better product, but they don't know what the problem is with their browser. The design team put in charge of this project assumes they need to improve the usability of a customer of a number of the browser's functions. They claim that this will win back customers by making features of the interface simpler, more attractive, and more flexible to use. The user researchers on the design team conduct an initial user study investigating how people use the company's web browser on a variety of phones. So basically, the way to design a better quality is to measure things first. That's the reason why we have this analytics on websites that allows you to track how visitors or how your users actually use the product. You may be able to track how the buttons or functions that you offer is being used, how many, and then what's really happening. So that's why we need to create this proof of concept or what we call user stories. They also look at other mobile web browsers on the market and compare their functionality and usability. They observe and talk to many different users. They discover several things about the usability of their browser, some of which they were not expecting. So they also look at another mobile browsers such as Mozilla on the market, and then they compare the functionality and usability of their software on that browser. They observe and talk to many different users. They discover several things about the usability of the web browser, some of which they were not expecting. One revelation is that many of their customers have never actually used the bookmarking tool. They present their findings to the rest of the team and have a long discussion about why each of them thinks it is not being used. One of the user experience architects agrees, noting how several of the users with whom he spoke mentioned how difficult and time consuming they found it when trying to move bookmarks between folders and how they often ended up accidentally putting them into the wrong folders. So here as an example, a bookmarking tool. So basically, mm, their findings, they present their findings. Uh, One of the team present their findings why they think it's not being used. And then one of the user architects agrees, noting how several of the users with whom he spoke mentioned how difficult and time consuming they found it when trying to move bookmarks between folders and how they often ended up accidentally putting them into the wrong folders. So they were able to like observe that a lot of customers, not just one, are accidentally putting that in the wrong folder. A software engineer reflects on what has been said, and he makes the claim that the bookmark function is no longer needed since he assumes that most people do what he does, which is to revisit a website by flicking through its history of previously visited pages. Another member of the team disagrees with him, claiming that many users do not like to leave a trail of the sites they have visited and would prefer to be able to save only the sites that they think might want to revisit. The bookmark function provides them with this option. Another option discussed is whether to include most frequently visited sites as thumbnail images or as stubs. The software engineers agree that providing all of the options could be a solution, but worries about how this might clutter a smartphone screen interface. So they were discussing the pros and cons of um, adding the frequently visited sites as thumbnail images or as stubs. So the software engineer agrees to it that providing all the option is good, but it might clutter the smartphone screen interface. So this is what's happening behind the scenes on creating this software product. They trying to balance the functionality with the usability because just because you have a lot of functions on your site or on your application does not mean that it will the customer will come back to you again. So uh, if for example a good example is the rearranging of a PDF file. So these known companies like Google or Microsoft actually offer that when they should be right because um, that's like a basic need for consumers, especially like me. So there is actually a website like I Love PDF that offers a clean interface, a good, easy to learn. It's just drag and drop. Have this GUI remove the need for us to learn the commands. We just need to see the objects we need to learn. So it provides that interface, but I know that a lot of functionality in the backend can also such as being able to like instantly drag and drop the application and instantly because it's more too big to drag and drop it. So there, I think that's a good example. So some websites. So I'll show you an example. I think I would be able to. I was able to here. Sedgda. This is a competitor. So basically, this allows you to rearrange. So it has this split, compress, rename, convert. So it has a lot of functionality. But the problem is there is a payment. Compare this to I Love PDF. They have like you just need to work on um, a little bit and you don't need to pay. So those like, but yeah, they have a different business model. But I think I Love PDF like get all the market. Uh, Sorry, I think you were not able to see that, but let me take a screenshot of it there. So here's an example of I Love PDF features compared to Sejda, which is has a lot more features, but there's a payment for like some basic rearranging of not a lot PDF. So there, so there, guys. This is an example. Uh, comparison. Now, the bookmark function provides them with this option. Another option discusses whether to include most frequently visited sites as thumbnail images or as tabs. The software engineer agrees that providing all of the options. So, here's the question to ask if you're reading with that or before you actually implement the design. So, here's one of the things that will allow you to create your proof of concept. Are there any problems with an existing product or user experience? If so, what are they? Why do you think there are problems? What evidence do you have to support the existence of these problems? How do you think your proposed design ideas might overcome these problems? So, you need to check first if your user are having an issue with some function on your app. So the way to do that is to talk, of course. Why do you think there are problems? So you need to come up with a theory and then test that theory. So what evidence you have to support the existence of this problem? So if you're basically conducting a scientific investigation, how do you think your proposed ideas might overcome these problems? So there was a clarity on how you would resolve the issue. There was no existing problem to overcome. What was being proposed was a new way of experiencing TV. So here, it's a classic. I'm not gonna read the slide. I'm just gonna explain. It's a classic example of not all functions or new technology is worth it for the customer. So basically, this create like a motion sickness, which we're discussing interface um, video that make the what do you call this hmm, neck of the customer uh, uh, painful. So basically, and also it's more expensive. Basically, it was not. Um, Moreover, wearing them made it difficult to do other things such as flicking through multiple channels, texting, and tweeting. Many people simultaneously use additional devices such as smartphones and tablets while watching TV. Most people who bought 3D TVs stopped watching them after a while because of these usability problems. While curved TV didn't require viewers to wear special glasses, it also failed because the actual benefits were not that significant relative to the cost. So, like we've said, nowadays, TV companies are creating ever more sophisticated display technologies, giving each a new acronym that it is simply known by, for example, QD OLED, QDEL, and QNED. They comprise mini-LEDs, quantum dot, and nanoscale technologies. Each new technology that is promoted is assumed to be better than the last one in terms of offering an even greater set of dazzling colors and deeper blocks that results in sharper and brighter images, much more than what we see in real life with the naked eye. But to what extent does each technology display development make a difference to the quality of the user experience? How many viewers know the difference between a QDEL or QNED? In many ways, has become more about providing new levels of hyper reality rather than focusing on the quality of the viewing experience. So here, it's a classic example of not because it's new technology or additional functionality leads to better user experience because it's not always worth it for us to improve. Sometimes enough is good enough because we also need to consider the money issue and how it is being used because it may provide us this it may provide us a better resolution or images but it may not need for user experience. So conceptual models. A model is a simplified description of a system or process that help describe how it works. So a model is basically a simplified description of the system or process. So you're trying to simplify how the system works because often the system are complicated. One of the example I would give is the model or the process of work, which allows them to be processed depending on the and will save temperature of the feed. So they have a good model. How to describe that? I would recommend you guys reading Leak 1 and Paper 2 first. So Jeff Hanson and Austin Henderson first define a conceptual model, high-level description of how it's organized and operates. A key benefit of conceptualizing a design at this level is that it enables designers to set out their thinking before laying out their videos. So before the layer or the subtask of the context in your system, you need to it's great. It's typically to level overview or simplified descriptions. In computer science or design, this involves finding what people can do with the product and what concepts are needed to understand how to interact with it. So it allow people to know what is the things that is capable or the limitations of the product and what concepts they need to learn to understand how to interact with the product. So first, metaphors and people how to understand what a product is used for and how to use it for an activity. For example, browsing and bookmarking, the concepts to which people are exposed through the product, including the task domain, objects they create and manipulate, their attributes, and the operations that can be performed on them, such as saving, revisiting, and organizing. Relationship between those concepts, for instance, whether one contains another, such as folder containing files, the mapping between the concepts and the user experience the product is designed to support or invoke. For example, one can revisit a page through looking at a list of visited sites, most frequently visited, or saved websites. Basically, these analogies, we will discuss this a lot because this is where the design of our phone, which is the kiosk that you see on McDo, the ATM machine, basically everything, even the icons on your PC was implemented. It allows us to understand this complex system like computer uh, uh, faster. The concepts to which people are exposed to the product, including task domain, objects they create, and manipulate their attributes and the operations that can be performed on them, and such as saving, revisiting, and organizing. So it also discussed the concepts to which your product are exposed. For example, this domain computer allows us to save, revisit, and organize. So it kind of like analogy that allows us to better make sense of what the thing or we actually do. The relationship between those concepts. For instance, whether one object contains another, such as folder containing files. So the relationship, like folder, there's always a file, just like in an office, right? That's a metaphor for that. The mappings between the concepts and the user experience the product is designed to support or invoke. For example, one can revisit a page through looking at a list of visited sites most frequently visited or saved websites. So basically, those concepts map to the how the user is using this computer. Basically, you're designing it to for the user. Let's say the user are trying to visit these websites often, then you would design your website to allow for easy access of that frequently used websites. So you're trying to design for the user. We will continue this in the next video. But yeah, we have an exciting topic for this, the most basic part of conceptualizing interaction that we have not discussed yet with regards to human to computer interaction. So again, we discussed how proof of concept and mental model, which is high level description of how the system or process works, are important in communicating to computers for us to better understand it. So it is another way or terms for us to remove cognitive load whenever we're dealing with this amazing machine. Again, guys, thank you for watching and see you on the next video.